Welcome, listeners, to www.ironradio.org, the website and podcast for all things strength sports and sports nutrition. With your hosts, Lonnie Lowry.
Remember, Phil is like a gnarled old oak tree held together with scar tissue and bone spurs.
Rob Fortney.
And I'm telling you, the pain that I would suffer was beyond excruciating.
And Phil Stevens.
Do it, Rob. You'll kill all those nerves.
Thanks for listening.
Good morning, everybody. Go to strengthguild.com, strengthguild.com. Scroll down to the Iron Radio collections, and we've got new shirts and new banners for you to support the show. Everything from just a regular banner, regular shirt, to ones with sayings on them, like Lonnie's Phil is like a gnarled old oak tree shirt. And some news for you, we're going to have some contests for people who own these shirts and things. So if you support the show, we'll let you more on that later. So if you get in on these early, you can be one of the first people to win some prizes. So thank you very much. Go check out the site, strengthguild.com. Scroll down to Iron Radio Collections and support the show.
Welcome, Iron Radio listeners. This is Lonnie Lowry. I'm an exercise physiology and nutrition professor of about 20 years, and I'm a former competitive bodybuilder.
This is Phil Stevens. I'm a powerlifter, Highland Games athlete. I run Strength Guild, amongst other things.
Hey, this is Dr. Mike Stu Nelson, creator of the Flex Diet Cert, associate professor of the Kerrigan Institute, and I'm in Hood River, Oregon right now.
This is Tommy Defea, and I am co-host of the Massenomics podcast.
And Tanner Baird, and I'm the other half of the Massenomics podcast, all things Massenomics.
Sweet.
Massenomics. Thanks for joining us, guys. It's good having you on.
Thanks for having us.
It's an honor to be on Iron Radio.
I'm sad I don't see, they're on video, we're not, but I don't see any of those lift shorts on you guys. I mean, I'm the most expensive short on the planet. So, no, we just want to shoot the shit and see how you guys are. And like usual with most of our guests, we just kind of start out with a backstory. Number one, before even the podcast, I mean, what got you guys into physical culture, lifting, stuff like that?
Well, the two of us met at the gym is how it very first started, and we were interested in, I guess I got into filming some YouTube videos around our lifting. We were both getting into powerlifting, the sport of powerlifting at the time, and we were thinking we'd make a YouTube channel out of it. And I talked to Tommy, let him know we had started a channel. He is a graphic designer by trade and came up with the logo. Maybe I'll let you jump in on that.
Yeah, that was really where it started. Is we were at the same gym together, and Tanner had mentioned this YouTube channel and some other things that he was into, and he had talked about this name Massenomics, and from there I said, yeah, I can make a logo for you, and I made a logo, and Tanner was like, damn, that's really cool, and from there it just kind of grew into making shirts, and it just, like, it was really steady, one thing at a time, but from there it eventually grew into a podcast, a gym, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, those are the major legs of the stool, I would say, is the podcast, which we just published, I think, our 223rd straight weekly episode of that, which is fun for us to be on your show, because I think there's a limited number of people, especially in the fitness or strength world, that understands. You're almost at 600. I mean, we can't even wrap our heads around that. Most people, 223 would sound like a large number. You know, we've been going at for 4.5 years and not missing a beat. But that's what's so crazy about Iron Radio is just the duration that you've been at it without missing anything. So I think that's a interesting note, as we get us getting the chance to sit down with you and talk to someone else that really understands that side of it too. But the podcast is one leg of that stool. Then the gym is probably a smaller leg. We run, we're in Northeast South Dakota. We run a little club strength gym, I would call it. We got people that compete in powerlifting and strongman. We're probably more so the membership consists of people that are just trying to get stronger, trying to get healthier, a fun hobby. So the podcast, the gym, then the apparel, of course, like Tommy was talking about, we're both wearing a couple shirts now, and then the lift shorts, like Phil was talking about, is maybe oddly enough as it is, it's one of the things we've become most well known for are lift shorts. And I don't know if I know how to describe that story or why that is even a thing. The real origin of that is we made these mesh shorts with one of our logos printed on them, and someone on the internet, as people on the internet do, got on us about them being overpriced and, you know, kind of trolling us or throwing us under the bus. And we just took it and ran with it, you know, made a joke out of it like we do a lot of the stuff we do. And it turned into our greatest marketing campaign that we could have ever. It's talking about these shorts too expensive.
Yeah.
But that's how we wrap all that stuff up together. I think everything that we do, we wrap humor around it, levity. We're not experts in nutrition science like you guys are. People aren't coming to our podcast to see us dissect the latest meta-analysis on free training.
And if they're coming to our podcast for that, they're really in the wrong spot. They messed up bad.
Right. People come to our podcast, you know, for the humor side of it. We talk about current events in the strength world, of course, and strength and nutrition world, but we're putting our own spin on it and having fun with it all.
Yeah. And you guys are up in what? You're up in South Dakota.
Yep, correct.
We're not too far from North Dakota or Minnesota, so we're in the northeast corner of the state.
And I think you guys run some strongman events and stuff up there too. I mean, is that at the facility?
Yeah, we've actually hosted 3 or 4 pretty well run, you know, to pat ourselves on the back on that we put together some pretty cool events. You know, we partner with our local county fair and that sort of thing, and we brought in some pretty significant audiences for that, and really trying to turn those strongman events into more of a spectator sport. You know, necessarily they weren't focused directly around the athletes competing. You know, it's still a very fun experience for them, but also more so turning it into a show for the audience. Like we like to think of it as strongman mixed together with a little bit of WWE is a better example. What we put on.
Yeah, we're really trying to focus on that showmanship aspect, and you know, getting a professional MC to run the event for everything, and building out programs to hand to everyone in the audience, and just really like paying attention to what we can do to make it an entertaining event. And it worked pretty well for us.
Yeah, it's a lot of work though, Phil. I mean, Phil, I know you put on your event, so we probably don't have to explain the amount of work it is to you, but you forget how much time all the small details can take us.
Yeah. And then has everything going on, like this year started out for the fitness industry, the Arnold Sports Fest being canceled, and now essentially everything's canceled. I mean, has that affected you guys in events?
It was really interesting because you know, Massenomics we both have full-time jobs, so Massenomics is kind of that passion project, that side project for us. But with that, we still have like a rough sales goal in mind, or what we think we could, you know, at the beginning of the year, we talked about some ideas of what we think we could possibly do for the year. And a big part of that is the Arnold, not just from a sales perspective, but from marketing, getting the word out. Like we were saying, we're in South Dakota, so our chances of meeting anyone are like non-existent. So it's kind of network in person with people. So we were really looking forward to that. And then to find out that the Arnold was canceled, it kind of felt like, well, the year 2020 is gone for Massenomics. Yeah. And luckily for us, that has actually not been the case at all. It's a mix of offering, a mix of having awesome followers, fans, supporters, but things have gone really good for us this year, and we're super grateful for that. We don't completely know why. I mean, maybe it's you know, things like this too, getting out into different audiences, but things have been really good for us this year.
A good example, or we talked to Mark Ripito recently kind of about it and similar things, and his comment on that was that our business, along with his and a lot of others in our space, we're fortunate because our customers are good people for the most part. We're dealing with good people. So even though we face something like the Arnold shutting down, which could be a huge blow to us, in the long run, it's really turned out to be a great year actually. And I think a big part of that is because of the type of people that we have behind us for sure.
Yep.
Did you guys print like an Arnold specific shirt?
We didn't have an Arnold specific shirt. I mean, we had a couple. We had some new releases made just for the Arnold.
Yeah.
And luckily, the nature of our business, we sell almost all of our stuff online, so that just meant moving it online, and the sales went over really good. You miss out on that organic thing of the random guy walking by and go, "Hey, that shirt's funny, I'll buy that." Like, obviously, that's not happening online, but it's still worked out pretty well for us. And then the other thing too is with gyms getting shut down and everyone moving to home gyms, we thankfully sell banners, and if you were in the banner business of any kind, good 4 or 5 months here.
Yeah, we really ramped up our flags and banners, came out with several new styles, and that was a big part, I think, in us finding a little bit of success there. But all that being said, it's not to say that we were not extremely stressed out when that Arnold event came about. Like you said, that was very in this COVID-19 process. So when it was canceled, it was actually canceled just hours before we were ready to get in our vehicle and make the 1,000-mile drive there. We had everything packed up, ready to go, ready to get in the car, and then, the governor met that evening, and they decided to shut it down. Fortunately, we hadn't left yet. There's a lot of other companies that we know that we talked to quite a bit that had things shipped there. They're like, half a year's worth of inventory was sitting in Columbus, Ohio. They were still at their, they hadn't got on the plane yet, so they got to figure out what they're going to do with this, $20,000 worth of inventory, how they're going to get it back, how the booth fees are all going to play out. And in the end, like we said, it has worked out very, very, very good for us, but certainly a lot of stress around all of that for a while, but in hindsight, it turned out pretty cool.
Events at your own place, more strongman meets or anything, has it affected that at all, or you guys just rolling with it?
Well, there really hasn't been. We are not going to have that event this year, so yes, it has affected that. The place that we would normally host that event, the event that we center our event inside of, is not going to take place. So no, that will not be able to happen this year. And for that matter, even if that was going on, I don't think we would probably hold it at this point in time. We don't want to be, regardless of what everyone individually wants to do, I don't want to be in the position of creating the event and taking ownership of that. Whether people would show up or not, at this point, I don't really want to have that responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, before we go to the topic of the day, which everybody it's going to be, we're going to talk about, the ability to train for decades and maybe things you do different. You guys had a few questions for us.
Yeah. Actually, what we want to do is on our show, on the Massenomics podcast, each week we play this game we call Overrated-Underrated. And what we do for that, if it's just Tommy and I have usually a list of 4 topics, and he has to decide whether each one is overrated or underrated. You can't ride the line. A lot of times these topics have something to do with lifting. A lot of times some of them have absolutely nothing to do with lifting. And like I said before, we like to have a little humor in most of them. Mm-hmm. So we came up with some IronRadio, overrated, underrated, that we would like you 3 to play with us. And I don't know how you guys want to do it. If you each want to give your answer for each one, I suppose you might have some differing opinions on them, but if you guys are game to play, we would sure like to do it with you on your show here today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. We'll each give an answer.
Yep. Topic number 1, overrated or underrated, is coffee as a pre-workout.
Who wants to go first? I know Lonnie's answer.
I'm chomping at the mic. I think... You go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
I suppose if you have enough of it, it's plenty good. It's just going to take me a lot. Because, myself, generally, I'm drinking coffee now. I'm going to go get like a Monster, and then I'm going to take some pre-workout.
So caffeine is is what you're saying.
So if I had enough coffee, I'd be good. But
I'm going to say coffee is underrated. Coffee does a lot of cool stuff. it sounds a little hippy-dippy, but, I mean, it's really sort of an ideal pre-workout. I mean, Americans get more antioxidants from coffee than from fruits and vegetables, for Christ's sake. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So, and, Mike and I nerd out about this a lot, but, I mean, even stuff like your ability to handle carbohydrates over weeks and weeks is enhanced by coffee, whereas if all you do is go to the harsh stimulants, it's just going to screw that up. Plus, old school. Fortress and I, we used to go make a pot of coffee. He would make instant coffee by the pot. Don't ask me. But we'd sit around and just drink really like double-strength coffee and watch metal videos. And so it was part of the ritual. It was the part of the pre-workout ritual. I mean, a good, strong, almost bitter cup of coffee, hell yeah. So I think it's underrated.
Yeah, I agree with Lonnie. I'd say underrated for pre-workout for most people.
Okay. Topic number 2, Chuck Taylor's for lifting shoes.
Who's going first? Me again?
Go for it.
I'll go ahead and go. I'm going to say they're overrated. They're just, I mean, they're a good shoe, but they're way overpriced. They're kind of like those lift shorts. And unlike the lift shorts, though, I see they fall apart a lot. And, yeah, I don't know. They're not that great. So,
yeah.
Back when they were $12 a pair, man, they were good.
Exactly. Phil, that's what I was going to say. Like, if you remember, like, when I was a kid in the 70s, like, those were the cheap shoes, Those were not the trendy things. I think they're overrated, honestly. And not that I'm good enough at any kind of lifting. I mean, what is a guy who's interested in muscle mass there's equipment really isn't a big thing. But I bought Chuck Taylor's, even like maybe half a dozen years ago, I bought a pair just to revisit them, and I don't know, they just didn't really feel right for me. I don't know, they're so damn flat. Like I don't know how guys used to play basketball in Chuck Taylor's,
That's what I do not know people did it athletics in those. That was one of the shoes of choice for that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna get lots of hate mail. I don't understand the obsession. I think they're overrated. So they're good, but they're just, I don't know. It's just a canvas on top of flat sole. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask Tommy and Tanner, are you guys going to chime in on this on your own show? Because I'm going to tune in and see what you guys say about these. Or do your listeners already know how you feel about these things?
This is an original topic to overrated, underrated that we picked for your show. But I think we would probably, I think they're overrated.
I would say overrated. We both have been lifting in a pair of the CrossFit TR lights from 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like that shoe because it's flat, which is fine, but it's really wide. I like it way more, which is what I had before that. So I would agree. I think Chucks are overrated as a lifting shoe.
Yeah, the Chuck Taylor is too narrow of a shoe for me. I might have a little bit wider of a foot, and I'd say if you're someone that's squatting and if you're pressing out a little bit, I see a lot of times people's foot is bulging over past the sole of the shoe, and I don't see how that's advantageous when you're trying to create as much power as possible.
And they also the toe curves up a little bit. Like it's very, very hard for the end of your toe to actually make contact with the ground. They do curve up, so.
So that's how we feel.
Totally overrated.
Yeah, overrated for sure. All right, the third topic, and this gets into the pretty serious stuff. This is more of the theme of our show. So overrated or underrated, the McDonald's apple pie.
Oh, God. I think it's underrated, man. That damn thing's pretty good. I like it, especially for the money. You get some bang for your buck. It's usually nice and fresh and warm. It's good. I'll take it.
That's such a Phil answer. You always go for the cheapest, highest calorie item. This is me being old, but I think the new ones, I'm going to go the other way and say they're overrated because the old apple pies, hot damn, those deep fried, grease dripping, crunchy, delicious little, naughty nuggets of goodness, they're gone. And now they're sort of like quasi-baked and stuff, so I don't know. I don't think the new ones, and I don't know if this is just the apple or the cherry pies, right? Because it's been ages since I ate one of these things. But, the irony is the bit of news that I was going to use today was about cooking oils and how they're overused and how damaging they are. Anyway.
Yeah. I'd go overrated. I'm kind of with Lonnie. Like, I remember those super old school, like, it's probably 40 grams of fat, like, just popped in a fryer with just a little bit of apple inside, and I don't even know what the new ones are. I haven't even tried them, to be honest.
Well, there's always time for experimentation.
I know. I feel like I got to go try it now.
Yeah. I'm going to have to
There's
revisit.
a hot apple pie on almost every corner in the United States. You can go get one. That's
Yeah.
Who else can say that?
That's right. Arm's length.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready for the final hard-hitting topic?
Yep.
All right, overrated or underrated? Sparkling waters, specifically LaCroix.
Ooh. Overrated.
Thought you might say that.
Yeah, it's just bubbly flavored water. And not saying I don't like it, but holy crap, the price tag on all of those things. It's fucking water with bubbles.
It's more of a status symbol, I think.
Yeah. My gut reaction is, can I dissolve caffeine in that somehow? You know. Otherwise, I don't really have enough information to make the call. I mean, we have some tonic water and stuff, but you know, that's for my gin and tonics. That's the extent of it for me. I don't know.
I mean, the marketing team for them is very underrated because they've done a really good job of selling a very inexpensive product for a premium price. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I go overrated too. I don't understand the obsession. There's not even caffeine in it. It just water with bubbles in it and CO2. Yeah.
If you tune weekly to the Massenomics podcast, you could hear us discuss the finer points of sparkling water. So something to think about.
Okay. So is it especially thirst quenching? Is there something good about all the carbonation? What do you guys? What do you?
No, it's all the subtleties. I mean, I can't make any grand statements here because it is all about the subtleties.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Like wine or coffee tasting, cheese tasting, right? You get notes of oakiness or something. Notes of citrus. Yeah.
Yes. So that wraps up our overrated, underrated game for the day. All three of you did outstanding, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I was stressed.
Yeah.
Mike's like an exam.
Yeah.
We'll take a short break, and then we're going to come back with the topic of the day.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, you know who this is. So I'm here to tell you about Dr. Mike T. Nelson's new book, Why You Should Eat Keto. I don't do it because, I mean, look at me. Come on, I'm fabulous and I'm fantastic. Anyway, you should text the Keto ebook, all in one word, to 44222 to receive your free copy. Do it now!
Hey listeners, this is Dr. Lonnie Lowry. If you've ever had anyone critique you on your protein intake as part of your weightlifting lifestyle, oh, you poor meathead, all that extra protein is going to rot your kidneys or weaken your bones or dehydrate you or give you gout or who knows what. There is a book available. You could simply Google CRC Press and Lowry. And what I've done is reach out to experts all over the world and create a book, a single compendium that you can hold up and say, this is why I consume extra protein. This can be very valuable when you're being quote-unquote educated by various professionals on the topic. There's an enormous amount of literature in this book on the safety, the effectiveness, how protein works in cells, the history of protein and weight trainers, much more. So again, please check out CRC Press and Protein and Lowry. You can just Google that, and I do, full disclosure, I do make a small single-digit royalty on the book, but that's not why I did it. I did it so we can all have something, our particular population, to both defend what we do and to inform our nutrition and our eating. Thanks. IronRadio is, of course, primarily a podcast. but over the years there have been technical glitches calling for backup streaming and listeners who wanted the convenience of other sources of audio content. Toward this end, IronRadio is now simulcast and backed up on YouTube. If needed, please search Lawnman07 or IronRadio from within YouTube. There's not much video, but if you like to listen through YouTube on a Roku or other living room device, there you go.
Like your weekly fix of IronRadio? In addition to being a popular institute on iTunes, we are also on email. Simply go to www.ironradio.org and sign up for the voluntary email. You'll get a once per week email, no more. That's little more than the show notes and a link to the audio. So go for it.
Okay, guys, we're back. And, we were trying to figure out what we were going to talk about today as a topic of the day, so I shot it out there to the interwebs. And Josh Haggins came up with a topic that is, maybe something we should touch on. Talk about the little things that can keep you lifting for decades. Those little things that most people skip as it's not worth their time. So, I don't know, just expand on that. I'd say just things that you do now that you realize, holy shit, I probably should have done that years ago. You guys want to touch on that first?
I think one of the first ones I would say is just limiting the amount of time you're going to failure. That's something that beginner lifters are notorious for, is always pushing everything to whether it's a set failure, a 1 rep max failure. It seems like the longer you're in the gym, the more you understand that failing is not something that you want to be doing, especially on a regular basis. And with a 1 rep max, you're really opening up the opportunity for injury if you're failing there too. So I think that's one of the biggest things that people do to increase their longevity, is just limiting their amount of time that they're in a state of failure.
Yeah, I think that's sound. The thought that comes to my mind is just for perspective, both of us have competed in strongman and powerlifting. I probably started lifting seriously about 13 years ago and have been going pretty consistently ever since then. I've done maybe 25 powerlifting, strongman, and Highland Games competitions over that time. And the biggest thing for me is it's much easier in hindsight at the time.
I feel like that's the advice for all of us. In hindsight, advice is always significantly easier.
Right, and as you're older, it's easier to wrap your mind around those things. But the big thing to me is just trying to remember all of this, regardless of what you do. If you're into competitive bodybuilding or just recreational lifting, just remembering that it is a marathon. Any of these sports, they are marathons and not sprints. It's not the fastest to get to anywhere. The goal should never be, in my mind, you're not trying to put 50 pounds on your deadlift this year. I just want to get to where I'm 5 pounds stronger. And if I get to where I'm 5 pounds stronger, then eventually being able to get 5 pounds stronger after that. And you have years to do it. If you're planning on doing this for a long time, be aware of that. You have years and years to do that. And then that plays along in with what Tommy said is minimizing those chances for injury, thinking that way. The biggest thing that gets people out of it is the injuries. If you can avoid those injuries, at least the biggest thing that gets people out of it when they would rather stay in is those injuries. And if you can minimize those chances for those at all costs, you're that much more successful, because the strongest people are usually going to be the people that are healthiest for the longest period of time. If you need to train for that long, you're going to get stronger. You don't have to be the world's foremost expert on training. Even if you can just stay healthy and continue to train intelligently and add a little bit of weight over time, it's going to be fun then too. That's probably the other thing. If you can make that small progress over time, you're going to have fun doing it and keep you motivated for a long time.
Yeah, no, and I think that one, I'll touch on both of those, but that one first is you see a difference now in the lifters. Like, everybody wants it now. And now more than before, let's say Ed Cohn's era, Ed was competitive, highly competitive for like 10 years.
Right.
You see people now, and they're like, I want to be Ed Cohn next year. And when you see these bright stars coming up, it's like, dude, this guy's going to be something. And he's crushing it, and then he's crushed. And I think a lot of that's part of it. I mean, it's pushing. You can only push so hard before your body explodes. And, we're not seeing those people with the legacies like that. 10 years of very impressive platform lifting. And now you're seeing guys that have a year, maybe 2 years, and then boom, he's gone. Like, he's wrecked. And then on the first point, the tough one I struggle with the going to failure thing, and I totally agree on it. The hard part as a coach, and I look back at what I did, you learn a lot as a lifter from that early stage. Because as a new lifter, I get new lifters all the time, and they're, like I said, they're mentally weak. So they just don't know what failure is. So how do we get, as a coach, I know that going to failure all the time is not a good answer. But how do I get a person to understand what failure is without taking them to failure? That's the fucking hard part.
Yeah. And that is a fine line. That is tricky, and you're right. Part of it does come with experience. There's no magic like, all right, this is the rule that you understand. You're going to be going to failure if you do X. Part of it does just come from trial and error, but hopefully over time, I think people should be aware of that and try to be moving away from the mentality that every single gym set has to be like this thing that's killing me and taking me down to failure.
Yeah, because it's the physical toll, of course. If you are maybe more into that intermediate bracket, the physical toll of those failures, but even more so for me personally, it's the mental thing.
And I would agree with that.
I do not like. It's easy for me. It's great for me mentally if I leave the gym and think, man, I could have done 2 more great reps right there. I don't know what I could have done for sure, but I'm confident I could have done 1, 2, or 3 more.
Or I went for like what I thought was getting close to my 1 rep max, and there was 5. I could like confidently say, yep, there was for sure 5 or 10 more pounds there. I would take that any day over like, yep, That was it. There's nothing else there, right. or not getting it even.
Yeah.
That's wise.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's 100% agree. And I think a lot of people do that too much. I mean, I think it was Ed Cohn again. It was like, you only have so many true max attempts in your life. Yeah. Save them for the meat, And my guys will see me cut things short all the time. It's like, yeah, that's good enough. I pooped just a little bit.
Oh my God.
A little okay. And Phil, one of the things you said too that I almost feel like is a more modern thing to be aware of is the Instagram mentality. I think it's 10 years ago that wasn't like, oh, you didn't hop on Instagram and see everyone deadlifting and squatting over 700 pounds. That wasn't the case. So you could maybe find a few people on YouTube. But now, like, I could pull up Instagram right now and just see pages and pages of people squatting 700, 800, even 900 pounds. And just realizing, like, that is, like, the 0.00001% of lifters, like, don't get sucked into that mentality. Like, just know when to stay in your lane a little bit and know who you are, know your limitations, and don't get stuck into that Instagram black hole of PR.
Yeah. Well, and as a coach, I won't name any names, but some of my high-level lifters seeing them get caught up in that. It's like, no, you got to meet in 3 weeks. Save it for the fucking platform. It doesn't matter what you do on Instagram. Yeah. So yeah, that's a tough one, man. So, Lonnie, what do you got? Anything on the nutrition side potentially?
Oh, well, maybe. I think for me, it's even broader than that. I think wisdom prevents scars. Right. And so you guys kind of talking to me, it's reframing what's hardcore. And like you say, marathon, like there is the discipline to be in this, to have an actual lengthy career. Like at my age, I just don't want to lose the privilege of squatting. I love to do that. I've got a lot of scars. I got to work around that in a couple different ways. I'll be honest with you. But damn it, I still do it. It's nice to put a couple plates on there and still be able to squat. I don't want to lose that. In fact, same thing with coffee. A lot of times I'm drinking half-calf coffee because I can't, I can't do even what Phil does now. Like, right, which is, a pre-workout powder and swish it down with a Monster and then have some coffee. Just good for So sometimes it's just, I think, having the wisdom to to reframe what's called for. And sometimes you got to decide where you are in your career. You know, maybe to a lot of people like, oh, Lonnie says he's post-competitive. That's boring. No, I'm going to fight the long defeat, damn it. I'm going to keep doing this. And, you know, I'll probably sneak out of the hospital bed and do something on the last day of my life, you know. I don't think they'll have 45-pound bars in there or anything. but yeah. So I think for me that's kind of what that is the reframing what's hardcore maybe.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, I think a lot of times it goes back to stuff that's super simple, like what is your goal? You know, and that seems like just so basic and boring and no one wants to talk about it. But like with clients, I have them go back to what do you want to do in the gym and what is kind of your overall goal like in life? Like for me, like if I had the chance to, I'm out here in Hood River, you know, kiteboarding, I would kiteboard over lifting. And I love lifting and grip and everything else. But I can't kiteboard almost every day at home or when I'm traveling. So my lifting is actually set up to have sub goals of what I want to do. And then when I get to kiteboard, I look to how much did that transfer to my riding. So I have my goals when I'm in the gym, what I'm doing day to day, and then how do they transfer. And similar to what you guys were saying too with going to failure, when Phil was saying is, it's hard initially to get some people to go to like an RP of a 9.5 or what is really a true 10. I may initially use the rower or a car push or something else where I know they can fail in kind of a safe manner. And then also looking at their lifting, like how did you fail? Like did you turn your deadlift into a pooping dog or did you just stay in the same form and couldn't get it off the floor? Yeah. Right? I think there's a big difference between those two. And over time, it's like I want to see you kind of fail with good form still. Because that just tells me you're probably just not strong enough per se, and your risk of injury is less instead of trying to turn everything into, I'm going to get it no matter what, and then your risk goes up, and then you're doing something different from a motor standpoint too.
Another big one for me is the realization, and we've kind of touched on this over the various points here, the realization that anything you want to do well, or at a very extremely high level, expert level, let's say, you need to be willing to give it 10 years. I mean, just whether that's a nutrition scientist or a lifter or anything else. And on top of that, with strength sports, with powerlifting, weightlifting, any of those, like it takes a very, very special person to, okay, for the next 10 years, I'm going to snatch and clean and jerk for 10 fucking years. You know, and you see a lot of lifting ADD, and I understand that, but that also at the same time is why the number of actual elite champions is so low, because it really does take a special mindset to do, okay, I'm going to do 2 lifts, and the other lifts I do are geared towards those 2 lifts for a decade. You know, and that's a big one. If you're not, and people need to sit back and ask themselves, everybody wants to be Arnold Schwarzenegger until they get rolling. You know, they're 6 months in, like, oh, this fucking sucks. You know, everybody wants to be a weightlifter until that 600th session of snatching. You know, it's like, fuck, I'm snatching again, and I've only gained 10 pounds on my snatch. You know, when's this shit gonna happen? So it takes a lot of maturity and a lot of patience, and you just have to enjoy the process. And that's one thing I got. Like, I love to compete, but I love the lifting better. Like today is my squat and deadlift day, and I fucking love it. And the only thing the meet is just my chance to get out there and see what I can do. You know, but I wouldn't do it if I'd compete once a year now. So 364 days of the year is spent just practicing for one day. You know.
Yeah, the other thought I have, and I guess it ties in nicely with that, and it fits in good with what we were saying about Massenomics earlier. We like to put a fun spin on things, and I think if you're going to do this for a really long time, it has to be fun and enjoyable.
Yes.
And I think that means different things for different peoples, especially depending on what the end goal is. But take someone like a powerlifter. There's a time and place for things. If you're peaking for a meet, you know, you've got your 8 weeks coming up for a powerlifting meet, your training is going to be pretty, I would say, hyper-focused for that meet, and
high intensity.
High intensity, very specific to what you're going to be doing at that meet. And that's okay, but once that meet's over, I think that's a great opportunity to involve things that are more fun, whatever that is.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of different tools in our gym, and some of it has not really a great specific purpose to your squat on the platform, but it's fun. You know, things like sandbags, grip training tools, all this different stuff. It keeps you in the gym. It can keep you motivated on something besides those core activities. And like I said, you know, it's maybe a twisted idea of what's fun, but you know, carrying a sandbag or pressing a sandbag overhead, that's different. So to me, that's kind of fun outside of the hardcore specific things you might be doing to prepare for normally.
Yeah. Another one I got is weight classes. One thing we're seeing now more than ever is everybody's sticking in low weight classes. And I don't know why. I mean, you'll see a guy, he's been there 6 years. I got to be 181 because I need the county record. You know, and it's like, well, what's your goal? You know, 5 years ago when you started out, you said you wanted to be Brian Shaw, but you're still 180 pounds. And I just don't understand where this mindset changed, because especially in powerlifting. I mean, I think Kurt Kowalski said it, you know, powerlifting is for big, strong men, you know, and generally the resounding theme was, if you go back and look at those lifters from years ago and all their meets, you would see the weight class of where they were at slowly went up over the decades. And nowadays you're seeing people stick down and bitching about how they're not strong. Well, guess what? You'd probably be a lot stronger if you slowly added 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds over 10 years. I'm not saying get there tomorrow, but I know I made that mistake. Like, I stuck at 242 too long. And then the minute I chose, like, okay, I'm going to go up. And then boom, you know, deadlift went from 7 to 750 to 780 to just by training and eating. And I don't know where it came from. And it's probably to do with Instagram and social media, and like, I need to have abs and lift. You're a powerlifter. It's okay. You know?
You know, Phil, it's the same damn thing with bodybuilding. I mean, what's wrong with the pursuit of being bigger and stronger? That's got to be the reason a lot of young people, guys and girls, pick up a dumbbell to begin with. And with the advent of natural bodybuilding over the past several years, the people are much smaller. Like, I grew up looking at muscle magazines, right? So these guys are, you know, low 200s in shape, you know, 225, 250 in shape, you know. Are they enhanced? Of course they're enhanced, right? And so my frame of reference was different, but it becomes body wasting competitions, because, you know, the winners on stage are 100. Once I got beat once by a guy that was, I think, he was 149 pounds. He had striations on his serratus. I'm not shitting you. And so I'm like, I never want that, man. You know, you look interesting to me, but also frail. and so sometimes I'm just saying it can go bad, right? I get it. You can only be so big if you're not using all kinds of anabolics and stuff. So you know, what do? You're going to get as ripped as you can. But then I would also argue sometimes they, you know, obviously they're going to dip into pharmacy to get ripped then. So whether it's over the counter or not. So anyway, I it's funny you say that, Phil, because I wasn't aware. All you guys actually. I don't know what you see, Tanner, but like with low weight classes in performance sports, but in bodybuilding, it seems like that too. And I get it. It's a counterculture to the ridiculous, unattainable 300-pound shredded physiques, or even like the Brian Shaw thing. Not everybody can be that,
yeah.
You know? Yeah,
no, but I mean, you know, I've dealt with it as a coach. Like, I'll have a lifter going for their first meet, and they'll be like, oh, well, I'm 187. I might as well cut for 181. Why are you cutting? You know, why? You suck. You know, there's no point. Just lift and go. Mm-hmm. And most of the people cutting weight, most of the lifters cutting massive amounts of weight are doing it for no reason. They're not fucking winning. They're not breaking records. In my mind, like I tell my lifters, there's two reasons to break a record. If you're at a meet that's giving you $20,000, or if you're breaking an actual world record. Other than that, just go fucking lift and let's have fun. And why add that extra stress? Because you're just going to screw your day up.
There's one more thing to go wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not against cutting. I'm against cutting for the right reason. You know.
Hey, let me ask.
Going to be number 50th. Why are you cutting?
Right. I was going to ask Tommy, what with your background in graphic design and stuff, and Phil, you're like this too. Is aesthetics ever a part of it? I mean, because everybody talks about performance all the time. The only lift I ever cared about the weight on the bar was my squat. Ever. Didn't care. Now, ironically, right, I mean, I was always bottom heavy, so maybe I should have focused on the weights more. But like,
I the aesthetics part, and like when I think back, like when I started really, like the gym really became a thing where I was focused on getting bigger, getting stronger. That was about 10 years ago, when I was about 20 years old. And at that time, I weighed about 170-ish pounds, and I'm 6'1", so I was a pretty skinny guy at that size. And my goal always from day one was I just wanted to be stronger. I wanted to be stronger, and I guess you could say with that the aesthetic part of that is just getting bigger. And I over that time, at first it's like I think people get their identity tied to their weight too much. And I think I was maybe even a little guilty of that in the beginning. It's like, nah, I'm like a skinnier guy. I stay around like 175, 180 because that's how a skinnier guy looks. And then eventually you realize that to get stronger, it's significantly easier if you're adding weight onto that. And at my heaviest ever, I think I was about 225, 230. And now I'm back down to right around closer to 200. So 50, up almost 50 pounds, down now about 25. So yeah, talking about the aesthetics part, I think people do get too sucked into that sometimes, and you can't be afraid. Like, none of this is permanent. I guess if you're going to gain 150 pounds, that might do some permanent damage one way or another. But if you're going to go somewhat controlled with it, this is all. You're not stuck. Like if you do gain 30, 40 pounds, you're not stuck with that forever. Yes. You can come back down. You're not that weight for the rest of your life. So yeah, gain some weight. See how it makes you get stronger. You might find that you really like it. You might find that I don't like how that feels on my body. Well, you know what? If you can gain that weight and you're disciplined, you can also lose that weight too.
So the fun of it for you is just the performance mostly? That
was always the funnest part for me. It was just purely the performance part, just pushing my body, seeing those numbers go up, week after week, month after month, year after year. It turns into this fun play with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a game changer. That's me too. I think they're lying, most people, if they say they don't get started into it. Just started, and it has some kind of aesthetic pleasure.
Yeah.
We don't want to look better. I'm 15. I want to look better for the chicks.
Yeah.
But then usually, usually it transfers into something.
I've been doing this for a long time. You can't tell, can you? Like nobody. Everyone will be like, can't be.
Yeah, and then it usually transforms into something else. Like me, when I found strength sports, it was like, okay, I found my shit, and then it changed into something deeper than that. So, anything else, guys?
No, I think that's great conversation on that topic for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing I might add is I wish I would have started wearing like some knee protection earlier and things like that. I was one of those purists early on. It was like no fucking straps, knee belts, wraps, nothing. I'm like, fuck, my knees hurt. I should have fucking wore those sleeves earlier.
Yeah, Phil, you got to wear protection. You got to wear protection.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, and even like I don't know, it was Jesse Burdick turned me on to just wearing some power briefs. And I'm not an equipped lifter, but I started wearing those in training sessions, and it just saved my hips. And I'm able to take them off for a meet, but in my training it helps. So I mean, there's little things like that you might look at. I still don't warm up, but I'm stupid, so don't listen to me. Like I don't stretch and do that stuff, but whatever. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for having us on, or thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's confusing.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. This is it's always fun getting to be on someone else's podcast.
Yeah, and I think being on IronRadio is a really cool experience for us. It's just like a really cool thing for us to be able to say a checkbox on the list. I listen to the show pretty regularly, so
I still remember this is funny how like full circle here. We initially made a list. What was that? 4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Of like top podcasts you should listen to. This is on the top strength training podcast you should listen to. This is on the Massenomics website. You guys were one of them on the list, and this is when we were doing a little more blogging at the time, and we put the list out, whatever, expecting no feedback. And I remember getting a text from Tanner. It was like 8 a.m, like, holy shit, IronRadio talked about the Massenomics podcast on their podcast, and I remember loading it up like, no way. Yeah. And it was like, I still remember you guys' conversation. You say, the Massenomics website, featured us on a radio on their top list of podcasts, and they were impressed by the fact that we have like 300 and some episodes, or it might have even been 400 at the time. And I remember thinking that is impossible for someone to record that many. We're at 223, but now we're at 223. We're on your podcast, so it's funny what a few years can do.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, man.
It is. You guys are one of the such few people that didn't pod fade, right? I mean,
yes.
I look at it like the evening news. I grew up evening news. It was 3 anchors on 3 major channels, right? And at no point did I want to turn on the news and Peter Jennings wasn't there because he had another appointment. There was someone there every week. It's just a simple formula. Anyway, and so good on you guys for doing that.
It's the same thing as we talked about with lifting. Everybody says they want to be Ed Cohn, and they're 6 months in and they quit. Everybody thinks they want to have a podcast. They're 6 months in, and once they find out the work of it, they fucking quit.
We like to think of ourselves as a cockroach of lifting podcasts. We just
chop his head off, and he keeps going.
My other IronRadio is get out there and leave a 5-star review. I see the number was ticking close to 500 on Apple Podcasts, and I think that number should be over 500. So leave a review, and also please check out the Massenomics podcast if you'd like to, and check out our store. Sometimes we sell a lot of humorous shirts, I would say, designs revolving around lifting. So if you're into that sort of thing, please check us out.
Yeah, and what was it? You have to get a second mortgage. If you do that, you can get some shorts. So.
Even enough. We've seen some people go down some pretty dark roads to do things to get money for ourselves.
So it's just Massenomics.com then, guys?
Yep. Massenomics.com and on Instagram.
Sweet. So everybody check it out. And again, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, fellas. Hey listeners, have you seen the store at IronRadio.org? There are 3 halls in the store. One for Phil, one for Fortress, and one for myself, Dr. Lowry. And they're thematic. So you can go into our Halls of Iron store and choose based on your goal. If you need something to learn or read or something nutritional, you can look in my store. Lonnie's store. If you want something about injury prevention or competition, then take a look at Phil's Hall of Iron. And if you want something about motivation or daily training, Fortress's Hall has what you're looking for. There are some fun, heroic descriptors as you browse through the stores. We try to make it a little more fun than the average boring online store. And whether you're a novice lifter or someone more experienced, you can take heart that you're not wasting your time. The things that we put in each Hall of Iron are actually based on our own recommendations. Protein powders that we know to be good, knee sleeves, wraps of some kind, things that Fortress uses in his own training. The stuff you see, you know is good. This way you don't waste time. So check out the Iron Radio store at ironradio.org and let us know what you think on the forums, and certainly you can request products and we will screen them before they go in. So thanks for listening. Iron Radio is accepting donations. If you like what we do, the professors, the scientists, the bodybuilding show promoters, the athletes themselves in powerlifting and bodybuilding, please consider making a donation or maybe buying something from the ironradio.org store. We also are accepting supporting members. So for $4 a month, which is frankly less than the bank sneaks out of your account in fees, you can step up and support a form of sort of public radio for the bodybuilding and powerlifting and strength community. The Iron Radio podcast and all of the audio on ironradio.org is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, it's important to check with your physician. Also seek the help of registered dietitians, athletic trainers, and qualified exercise physiologists in order to make the progress that you need.